Hi friends, I'm Pastor Terry and we are Okotoks Alliance Church, and this is the 10-Minute Coach. I want to bring you back to 1 Timothy chapter 6. We jumped into verses 2 through 10 and then 17 through 19. Second final message in this series from in First Timothy, mentored by the great Apostle Paul. And I want to bring you back to this text, which really addresses or Paul calls us to pay attention to some broken realities around the management of finances, the management of wealth in our world that creeps into the church. It had crept into the church in the first century. There were false teachers, and some of their motivation was driven by financial gain. And Paul, very clearly in the end of chapter 5, says they think godliness is a means to financial gain. And then he goes on to counter that in verse 6 to say, no, godliness with contentment is great gain. And so I've given you some questions on the back of our sermon notes for you to begin to drill into this. We talked in the sermon about this, around the idea of whose stuff is this anyway. Looking into verse 7, you might want to read that again with that question in mind. How much is too much? Is there such a thing as being filthy rich? Is wealth to be equated with godlessness? And we addressed that out of verses 8 through 10. And then we jumped toward the end of the letter, down to verses 17 and 19, where we talked about where our hope must be secured and asked some questions around that. I think the questions will be helpful to you, but maybe particularly helpful is just to even reflect on how you think about money, how you think about wealth. I have some broken ways of thinking about it. I recognize that. I'm not sure I've fully resolved that. When I was a kid, my perception was our family was poor, that we didn't have enough money. We lived frugally, carefully, or at least that was my impression. As I look back now, I'm not sure that was actually the case, but that's what I felt. And that then there was this concern around guarding what you've got, spending it carefully. I remember when I was a kid, going through Sears department store with my mom and stopping to look at the bicycles. And I think she'd actually taken me to look at them, but my perception was we're not in the market for a new bike. Yes, I would like a new bike, but that was not. We were looking at a nice blue 10-speed bike, those old ones with the curled handlebars. Some of you remember them. And Mom confirmed, this is the one that you like, and yeah, sure, that's a beautiful bike. I love that. And she said, okay, we'll take it. And I'm like, kind of trying to correct the salesperson from misunderstanding, from thinking that somehow she meant we were going to buy it. We were, that was the intent. And what I'm saying is that this was kind of how I thought about finance. Fast forward to college, I remember, making, sort of deprivation. I'm not going to buy a Coke today, or I'm not going to buy a chocolate bar, though I'd really like one, because I can save that 50 cents. I think that's what it was in those days. Maybe it was $1. For something I want to do this weekend. I was going to take Ann out or something like that. So those are some of the ways that I have thought about finances. I think a poverty mindset would be another thing that we want to caution ourselves against. That there's never going to be enough. We always got to save, and we always want to be frugality is a good practice. Being careful, avoiding excessive extravagances, living within our means. A fundamental, necessary thing. These are godly things to do. Live within your means and trust God. But when it becomes an unhealthy fixation, we have an unhealthy relationship with money. And Paul's calling us both to trust God and to entrust to Him the things that we have. I've noted sometimes that some of the wealthy followers of Jesus that I know, who are generous with their finances and they care for God, it just seems to me that God knew He could trust them with greater amounts of wealth, because it didn't have a hold on them. They were able to give it away to care for the needy. They still lived a nice life and had their needs met, but they were also paying attention to godly priorities and godly values. What's your relationship with money been like? Well, where have you struggled the most with finances? What's the difference between having enjoying the finances that God gives to us and being a lover of money? Is that a fine line, or is that a bold line? What's your experience of that being? I think this is the kind of thing that may be healthy, helpful conversation for us to have, whether you're with a friend over a coffee, or whether you're with your family around a meal, a dinner table, or with your life group. The reality continues to be that finance has been the undoing of many followers of Jesus. And this is part of the concern that Paul has here, that he says, some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. That's in verse 10. So we want to be those who are equipping ourselves to walk faithfully with God in every area of our lives, including the management of our financial resources, the wealth, the assets that we gather. I pray that your conversation would be rich and responsive, the insights that you have into yourself and into your world and maybe into your upbringing, and would be led by Holy Spirit, that He would be our coach in these things. We have been inviting the Apostle Paul to coach us. Holy Spirit really is the one who needs to apply the Scriptures to our lives, and I pray that you would have just a rich encounter with Him as you pursue Him in this. I think that's all I've got for you here and now. But reach out to me if you have questions that I can somehow help you with. Terry L. at okalliance.ca. I'm Pastor Terry, and we are Okotoks Alliance Church, and this has been the 10-Minute Coach. Bless you. Bye for now.